CBS 4 News This Morning.
Now at 7, Hurricane Dorian downgraded overnight, but it remains essentially stuck over the Bahamas. The already catastrophic storm refusing to move and inflicting more damage on some of the islands. But even though it's this close to South Florida, all of the forecasts agree landfall will not happen here.
The situation unfolding about 150 miles to our east is just heartbreaking. The Prime Minister of the Bahamas says at least 5 people have died in the Abaco Islands. That number is almost certain to grow. 7 o'clock now on this Tuesday, September 3rd. We were just keeping an eye on this and really just not the movement that we were hoping to see this morning.
We're waiting for that 7 a.m. position update and hoping that there might be some indication that it's starting to move, but it's still stationary over the Bahamas.
And the eye will wobble around a bit. Looks like that on the satellite, but eventually we'll start to see it move north. And that's what we're waiting for it to see, that latitude start to go up.
And that's what the forecast models are predicting, that it will turn north-northwest, and the National Hurricane Center expecting that as well as we are too later today. Right now, though, as we look at the latest 7 a.m.
with the gusts being higher, especially there to the north. Lauren and Carly, back to you.
Dave, thank you. Take a look at this video now from the Bahamas. That is the Grand Bahama International Airport. It is completely underwater. In this video taken by a member of Parliament, you can't really tell where the ground begins or ends. It just looks like it's part of the ocean at that point. That looks like it's a balcony out there. Very scary video. As we mentioned earlier, the Bahamas Prime Minister says at least 5 people have died as a result of Hurricane Dorian. And with the hurricane stalled over Grand Bahama Island, it's too early to know how high that number could go.
Meantime, this is video also from the Bahamas showing the extent of the storm surge. That's actually the 2nd floor of that house. The water lapping all the way up the staircase, and this will continue for many more terrifying hours. CBS 4 anchor Rudabe Shabazi has more.
Dorian pounded the Bahamas for more than a day as a Category 5 with catastrophic winds tearing off roofs, toppling trees and downing power lines. The storm surge claiming at least 5 lives, including a young boy, with fears there could be many more. The Bahamas press report seeing flatbed trucks collecting bodies. Here's the Bahamian Prime Minister.
The initial reports from Abaco is that the devastation is unprecedented.
Residents scrambled to their attics, trying to escape storm surge as high as 23 feet, as authorities urged people to grab hammers to break out of attics. More than 4 feet of rain is expected in the next few days.
Complete devastation. Look at these cars, man.
It was the strongest hurricane to hit in modern history. Just look at the video shot by a government minister, apparently from the 2nd floor of his house.
And this is the water by my back door and glass that came from the canal. That height has to be about 20 to 25 feet above sea level.
Already, the International Red Cross is estimating as many as 13,000 homes have been severely damaged or destroyed. Rudabe Shabazi, CBS 4 This Morning.
And here in Florida, residents and officials are watching and waiting to see what Hurricane Dorian does next.
We continue our team coverage now with CBS 4's Ted Scouten. He is live on Hutchinson Island with the latest from there. Ted, good morning.
Good morning, Carly and Lauren. Well, right now you can see we're actually on the beach. I want to give you a look at the ocean here. Right now the tide is not so high, but you can see the water out there really quite rough. We've been on the beach for the past few days. The water has been getting progressively more choppy, more rough, higher surf, higher seas, and you can see that out there right now. Definitely some big waves out there, and that is expected to get even bigger. One of the concerns in the area here, of course, is always storm surge. The storm surge in this area could be anywhere from 4 to 7 feet. That's why there is a storm surge warning, in addition to a hurricane warning, in effect for the area where we are. Also today we're seeing the winds pick up. We have some gusty winds today. Still nothing too serious, but the winds that you can see right now, these are sustained winds that have been coming through. We've been out here since around 3 o'clock in the morning. What we've been seeing is these winds that are coming right now. Then also there's times when those squall lines just move through where we'll get the big gusts of winds, and we'll also get bands of rain. We haven't had a lot of rain yet this morning. We've had several bands pass through, but none of them have been all that serious yet or all that heavy. There's been moments of heavy rain, but then it dissipates pretty quickly. It goes away. But right now, just take a look one more time at the ocean. This is our first look at the ocean really this morning in daylight, where you can see those waves are really pretty high. Those waves have been increasing over the past few days here, and of course that's expected to get even higher as time goes on. Live on Hutchinson Island, Ted Scout, CBS 4 This Morning.
Ted, having visited that area of Hutchinson Island, I know that some of the homes and properties there are actually beachfront. They're right there adjacent to the water. What sort of preps did you see these people take? Are there shutters up, sandbags? What are they doing to make sure that all those properties, hotels, condos, everything stays safe?
I've seen some of the hotels and properties have shutters on them and sandbags as well, but a lot of the newer properties have impact windows, so you don't see anything on there, but just know that it's impact windows there. But really all the hotels, as far as we know, have evacuated. We were staying on one a couple days ago, and they said they were leaving. And one of the things that makes people really want to get off of the island at a time like this is the fact that the county shuts off water to the island to protect the infrastructure. So again, right now what we're seeing, some places are boarded up, other places, and mostly all places, have sandbags just because of the concern of water rushing through.
Good that people are heeding those warnings. Ted, thank you so much for that live report.
Well, this morning, Palm Beach County remains under a tropical storm warning and a hurricane watch.
Like so many others, people there are watching and waiting to see what Dorian does next. CBS 4's Joan Murray continues our team coverage live from Boynton Beach.
And it's been kind of eerily quiet here in Palm Beach County. Normally the day after the holiday, people would be getting up, getting back to work, but instead people remain hunkered down. There was a mandatory evacuation of the barrier island and people living in mobile homes. So we are at a marina that's just on the other side of the bridge leading to the ocean here in Boynton Beach. You can see fairly calm all morning. We've experienced those squalls, lots of wind and rain. It comes in waves. There was some pooling water in the parking lot. You can see that's dissipated somewhat, but things are all quiet there. You see the boats tied down and everything is calm. Now, the last time we spoke, the bridge was open both directions, but in just about the last 20 minutes, we noticed a police officer came, parked himself at the bridge. They are checking ID, so they're not preventing anyone from going back to the A1A area, but you do have to present identification. Not just anyone can cross over the bridge. Again, mandatory evacuation for people who are living along the ocean and also in mobile homes. And the county here did open up 11 shelters altogether. Hundreds of people did take advantage of that. Those people remain in the shelter. Most of those people remain in the shelters this morning. School is, of course, closed here in Palm Beach County. Other thing we noticed coming into this area was about half the homes remain boarded up. We saw lots of shutters, businesses, and on homes here. So again, people continue to monitor the storm. Always a threat of some flooding in low-lying areas as we continue to get pelted with rain.
Now, Joan, you mentioned the rain. I know throughout the morning you've had the umbrella, you've put the umbrella away, you have it back out again. How does this rain seem to be moving through the winds, these squalls? How quickly do you notice that these changes are taking place?
About every couple of minutes. Like I said, sometimes you'll be standing here and it's clear for, you know, maybe 3 or 4 minutes, and then another squall appears. You can see the palm trees blowing a little bit in the wind. And again, it's like I'd say every few minutes another squall will come through, bring out the umbrella once more. Again, and sometimes the rain is heavier than other times. Sometimes it's a lighter, a passing shower. Other times it's much heavier again. So you really do have to keep an eye on when you have repeated rain like this, and because the ground is already so saturated that there won't be some localized flooding.
Very important to note. Joan, thank you for that live report.
7:14 right now, in South Florida school districts are monitoring Hurricane Dorian as it sits off our coast.
Miami-Dade, Broward, and Monroe public schools are all closed today. Miami-Dade says it will reopen tomorrow, but that could change depending on Dorian's path. Palm Beach County schools are closed today and tomorrow.
Brightline and Tri-Rail have suspended service for today, and tolls on many Florida roads and highways have been suspended. Fort Lauderdale-Hollywood International Airport remains closed this morning, but Broward County's mayor tells us it could reopen today at noon. An announcement could come at a news conference later this morning. Meanwhile, Miami International Airport is open, but there could be flight cancellations and delays. So, of course, if you have any travel plans, check with your airline before heading to the airport.
We definitely recommend that. 7:14 now, our CBS 4 News team coverage of Hurricane Dorian continues next on this special edition of CBS 4 This Morning.
Up next, we're live with what's being done here in South Florida to help the hurricane-ravaged island nation of the Bahamas and how you can help in those relief efforts.
We are taking a look now. This is a live image of Hillsborough Beach, courtesy of EarthCam. We see the wind blowing. We see the waves moving in. Still not the worst of it quite yet, but those clouds looking pretty ominous in the distance. Stay with us. We'll be right back after this.
And then Thursday and Friday, once Dorian continues to lift away from us, we'll see hot sun and scattered storms.
Lisette, thank you. 7:24 and happening today with the worst of Hurricane Dorian missing South Florida. People are asking what they can do to help the people of the Bahamas.
CBS 4's Riel Creighton is live in Coconut Grove with a look at some of the relief efforts that are coming together. Riel, good morning.
Good morning, Carly and Lauren. Well, Christ Episcopal Church here, which is right behind me, this is on Hibiscus Street here in Coconut Grove, is one of the organizations that is being proactive, stepping up and taking supplies, not only for our neighbors to the north, but also for the people of the Bahamas, where the situation is just devastating. The storm still just sitting over them. Take a look at this video. Video shows those treacherous waves, the treacherous water, rather, flooding homes, restaurants, barely noticeable. At least 5 people died, many more needing rescuing. We did talk to an admiral with the Coast Guard on Monday. He tells us that pilots spent most of that day surveying the area to see how close they could get to Abaco. The Bahamian consul, while that was happening, is teaming up with them in Miami to get local relief to churches, fire stations, and to provide dozens of locals also spending their day gathering supplies, collecting canned food, water, clothing, baby items, and more. We are expecting to get from Miami-Dade County officials later this morning more information about a county-wide relief effort, how you can help. We will be there. We will, of course, bring that to you as soon as we get it. For now, we're live in Coconut Grove. Riel Creighton, CBS 4 This Morning.
Riel, thank you for that information. Neighbors for Neighbors and our intercom radio partners, including Power 96, 560 The Joe, WQAM, and Kiss Country 99.9 are coming together to help with the relief effort. To find out how to help, just go to neighborsforneighbors.org.
7:25 right now, and our special CBS 4 team coverage continues next as we track Hurricane Dorian.
But first, take a look at this live picture of Lauderdale by the Sea. This is courtesy of EarthCam. You see the rain droplets on the camera there. The wind blowing those palm trees. This area saw some really high tides yesterday, so hoping everyone stays safe today. We have more on tracking Hurricane Dorian right after this.
Move through the area. Lauren, Carly, back to you.
Dave, thank you. Hurricane Dorian remains stalled out over the Bahamas, leaving behind more destruction in the island nation. The Bahamian Prime Minister says the storm is responsible for at least 5 deaths, and officials fear that number could certainly climb. Social media capturing horrific scenes with many homes nearly underwater. The storm hit that area as a Category 5, causing unprecedented damage.
We are in the midst of a historic tragedy in parts of our northern Bahamas. Our mission and focus now is search, rescue, and recovery.
The International Red Cross is estimating as many as 13,000 homes have been severely damaged or destroyed.
It's terrible video there. Our team coverage continues now up the coast, where they are watching Hurricane Dorian very closely, of course.
CBS 4's Ted Scouten joins us live from Hutchinson Island with the latest from there. Ted.
Hi, Lauren and Carly. Well, you know, we have a lot of wind, obviously, through this area. You can see I have some protective goggles on because a lot of the sand on the beach is being blown by the wind that blows right into your eyes, and it hurts, basically. Just to give you an idea of what we're experiencing now, take a look out here at the ocean. We're getting our first looks at the ocean this morning. Those are some very, very rough waves. We have a band coming through now. It's just starting to rain again. We have some very rough waves out there. There's, of course, a concern for storm surge. That surge surge could be anywhere between 4 and 7 feet. Right now what we're experiencing is one of those bands coming through where we're getting some rain. It's not too heavy at the moment. Sometimes it's been heavier than others. It usually passes by pretty quickly, all the ones so far this morning. But again, the ocean has been really just very, very turned up this morning. Over the past 3 days, it's been getting more and more choppy, more and more, the waves have been getting higher, and that, of course, is expected to get higher as the day goes on. Live in Hutchinson Island, Ted Scouten, CBS 4 This Morning.
Ted, thank you. And now we want to head even farther up the coast.
CBS 4's Hillary Lane continues our team coverage this morning. She is live in Daytona Beach. Hillary.
Lauren and Carly, it's a bit windy here, but otherwise a beautiful day. We're really not expecting conditions to worsen until tonight into tomorrow when we'll feel those impacts of Hurricane Dorian. There is, though, a mandatory evacuation order in place here for low-lying areas that began yesterday. In the meantime, residents here are waiting to see what Hurricane Dorian will bring.
Hurricane Dorian kept its devastating grip on the Bahamas.
We are in the midst of a historic tragedy.
After massive flooding and winds took a heavy toll.
Complete devastation. Look at these cars, man.
The storm claimed lives and damaged or destroyed thousands of homes Monday.
Our mission and focus now is search, rescue, and recovery.
The U.S. Coast Guard brought injured people to Nassau International Airport while Dorian still raged.
The National Weather Service says the storm is expected to approach the eastern Florida coastline later today.
People need to remain vigilant.
Millions of people over 4 southeastern states have been ordered to evacuate.
Get out now while you have time, while there's fuel available.
With Dorian's path uncertain, some have decided to wait and see. That includes the Gash family, whose Cocoa Beach home sits surrounded by water.
If the hurricane kind of wobbles and comes closer, then we can go inland a little bit. So that's kind of my reassurance of we're keeping an eye on it.
Meanwhile, a convoy of emergency vehicles drove south through Florida, just in case Dorian doesn't keep its distance.
And officials here are already looking to the aftermath of Hurricane Dorian. Right now there are 5,000 power trucks lined up at the Daytona Speedway, getting ready to go out and get to work once the storm passes. Live in Daytona Beach, Hillary Lane, Lauren and Carly, over to you.
Hillary, I gotta say, it looks pretty calm, actually kind of nice where you are right now this morning. I know sometimes that can lull people into a false sense of security. So what are you seeing as far as people actually evacuating? Are they heeding the warnings, and what are officials doing to enforce it?
Well, yesterday when those sobering images out of the Bahamas, when you see the destruction that the then Category 5 storm caused in that area, people here were saying that made them perk up and listen, and they were going to start evacuating. But then the storm began to stall, and I'm not sure if you can see, but you look out to the beach, people are out here, they're walking in the water, and they're saying the storm isn't coming for hours, so why leave now? I mean, this storm is certainly on people's minds, but you don't feel the urgency. People feel like they don't need to leave right now because they still have probably another 24 hours until the storm gets to this area.
All right, Hillary, hopefully they listen when that time does come, if that indeed happens. Thanks so much for your report.
Hurricane Dorian is lingering in the ocean just about 100 miles east of Palm Beach County.
CBS 4's Joan Murray continues our team coverage now live from Boynton Beach. Hi, Joan.
Hey, Lauren and Carly, maybe it's just me, but it feels actually a little bit cooler. I got on a jacket. All morning we've been telling you that there's been a lot of wind and rain. Right now we're having a brief break from the constant rain. So we are at a marina that's just on the other side of the bridge leading to the ocean. Things fairly quiet. We noticed it was very quiet on the roadways, usually much busier after a holiday, Labor Day yesterday. But people are staying indoors, staying off the roads. The roads were basically empty. Of course, schools are closed today and tomorrow here in Palm Beach County. They did issue a mandatory evacuation here in Palm Beach County. That meant that shelters were open. They opened 11 shelters altogether. There were 9 regular shelters one pet shelter and one special needs shelter. The bridge was closed earlier open this morning, but then in the past hour, we did notice that a police car appeared, and you can see up there an officer checking IDs. They are allowing people who have identification to go over to the ocean area. So once again, fairly quiet. Again, emergency managers are just urging everyone to keep an eye on the storm. Again, we continue to get the outer bands of the hurricane, and that means wind and rain, brief break right now, but there is always concern that there could be some localized flooding. We'll continue to keep you posted all morning. Reporting in Boynton Beach, Joan Murray, CBS 4 this morning.
Joan, thank you for that live report. Now, as you saw earlier, if the power goes out, Florida Power and Light says they are ready.
Officials say the company's technicians and their reinforcements are standing by.
We have close to 17,000 personnel ready to respond to the storm, and this includes FPL employees as well as workers from other utilities and electrical contracting companies.
FPL says avoid down power lines and never wade through standing water. You see the crews getting ready there. If you see a fallen power line, you are asked to call 911 or FPL to report it. 7:45 right now, and straight ahead, more of our team coverage of tracking Hurricane Dorian.
We have some live pictures right now. This is from Hillsborough Beach, courtesy of EarthCam. Maybe in the last half hour, the wind's picking up just a little bit, some heavy surf out there. We'll be right back after this. Stay with us.
Preparations from Florida to South Carolina well underway at this point. They're already feeling the breeze up in Duval County. Hotels along Atlantic Beach getting ready for Dorian's potential storm surge.
Well, businesses are boarding up in Georgia with so much uncertainty at this point on Dorian's path. Coastal communities are just starting to look like ghost towns. Many evacuees there are heading inland to Atlanta.
And in South Carolina, people hitting the road in one direction only, out of town. Highway troopers around Charleston have reversed traffic to make it easier for people to evacuate as Hurricane Dorian approaches. The entire South Carolina coast is under a mandatory evacuation order. 7:56 right now, and our special coverage continues next at 8.
The Bahamas still being battered by Hurricane Dorian, leaving behind this catastrophic damage. We have a look at the latest videos from the storm-ravaged islands right after the break.
And the big question this morning is, when will Dorian begin to move away? We are starting to see some of that slight movement. We also want to know, when will central and northern Florida perhaps start feeling some of the effects? We have weather team coverage here with the latest on the storm's track.
Let's take a look right now. Outside, those clouds moving in. Not a beautiful day right now on this Tuesday morning. We have the latest right after this.
Evening. Lauren, Carly, back to you.
Dave, thank you. Take a look at this video from the Bahamas. That is the Grand Bahama International Airport, if you can believe that. Much of it is underwater. In this video taken by a member of Parliament, you really can't tell where the ground begins or ends. Our only hint there seems to be that balcony. It appears like it's almost just part of the ocean. Very scary. As we mentioned earlier, the Bahamas Prime Minister says at least 5 people have died as a result of the hurricane. And with the hurricane stalled over the Grand Bahama Island, it is way too early to know how high that number could go.
Meantime, we have some video also from the Bahamas showing the extent of the storm surge there. That's the 2nd floor of that house. The water lapping all the way up the staircase, and this will continued for many terrifying hours overnight. CBS 4 anchor Rudabeh Shabazi has more.
Dorian pounded the Bahamas for more than a day as a Category 5, with catastrophic winds tearing off roofs, toppling trees, and downing power lines. The storm surge claiming at least 5 lives, including a young boy, with fears there could be many more. The Bahamas press reports seeing flatbed trucks collecting bodies. Here's the Bahamian Prime Minister.
The initial reports from Abaco is that the devastation is unprecedented.
Residents scrambled to their attics, trying to escape storm surge as high as 23 feet, as authorities urged people to grab hammers to break out of attics. More than 4 feet of rain is expected in the next few days.
Complete devastation. Look at these cars, man.
It was the strongest hurricane to hit in modern history. Just look at the video shot by a government minister, apparently from the 2nd floor of his house.
and this is the water by my back door and glass that came from the canal. That height has to be about 20 to 25 feet above sea level.
Already, the International Red Cross is estimating as many as 13,000 homes have been severely damaged or destroyed. Rutabe Shabazi, CBS 4 This Morning.
8:07 now, and here in Florida, residents and officials are watching and waiting to see what Hurricane Dorian does next.
Now, we continue our team coverage with CBS 4's Ted Scout, and he is live in Hutchinson Island with the latest. Ted, we can barely see you there. Good morning.
Good morning, Carly and Lauren. Yeah, it's been getting progressively more windy, progressively stronger winds have been coming through, including with a lot of strong gusts with those squalls. We shot some video just a little while ago. It shows you just how strong that wind got. It's one of those things where one of those squalls moves through. It comes on very suddenly. All of a sudden, you have just incredible wind. And then during that time, you also have a lot of rain, and then it's gone, just like that. As quickly as it's come, it's gone. And these are the things that officials want people to be very wary of, because you don't know when it's going to happen. It's just sudden. And if you're caught outside and not prepared for it, then you could find yourself in trouble, especially if you're driving, you have one of the vehicles that are higher. Again, now we're seeing some stronger gusts coming through as well. Let me turn you over to the ocean so you can get an idea of what we're seeing there on the ocean and the waves coming in. It's pretty heavy this morning, very heavy surf. Over the past few days, it's been building. This is the heaviest that we have seen it, and we expect that it will likely continue. Of course, the concern is storm surge. There's a storm surge warning in place here, as well as a hurricane warning. What the expectation with storm surge is it could be as high as 4 to 7 feet. So that's one of the big reasons why Hutchinson Island and a lot of the barrier islands along the coast have been evacuated. Again, though, those squalls moving through had a strong wind just a little while ago, about a half an hour ago or so, and we can expect more of those throughout the day. Live in Hutchinson Island, Ted Scout, CBS 4 This Morning.
Yeah, Ted, and it seems like it might start to get worse soon because, as you know, it is now slowly starting to move northwest at 1 mile per hour, so a little bit of action there from Dorian, but it looks empty. It looks like people have heeded the warnings. They have not stayed out on the beach. You mentioned something interesting earlier today that's really by design because they actually turn off the water there to properties along the beach.
Say that again. I was having a hard time hearing the last part.
Just that it's interesting. You had mentioned earlier this morning that water has actually been turned off to some of the properties there along the beach, sort of to incentivize people to actually evacuate.
Yeah, water has been turned off. What the county is telling us is that the reason why they shut off the water is to protect the infrastructure. I guess the kind of unintended consequences, the added benefit for that is might encourage people to get out of the area. You know, also I wanted to point out too, I spoke to a sheriff's deputy just a few moments ago. He's been patrolling Hutchinson Island. He said so far everything is looking great here. They've seen some palm fronds down, but that's about it. Hasn't really noticed any big flooding, hasn't noticed any problems. Just as we said, some palm fronds down. So that's good. Also, no one on the road. So the people who were supposed to evacuate did, or they're staying hunkered down right now.
All right, Ted, good to hear people have heeded those warnings. Thanks so much for that report.
Stay safe out there. Well, it was an unusual Labor Day in northern Palm Beach. There weren't really many cars on the roads. Many businesses were closed as the storm sits off the coast. The strong winds are bringing a rough surf to Juno Beach. Take a look at that. Not quite typical for Florida waves during a vacation to look like this. Most residents in the coastal community are not taking any chances.
It's wild. It's pretty, turbulent. I shut my hurricane shutters and have enough food and water to last me.
People who live beachside have been told to evacuate. Most people have done that and heeded that warning. Also in Palm Beach County, that area remains under a tropical storm warning and a hurricane watch.
Like so many others, people there just watching and waiting to see exactly what Dorian does next now that it's starting to move again. CBS 4's Joan Murray continues our team coverage live from Boynton Beach. Joan.
And this is central Palm Beach County. Also very quiet here this morning with schools shut. Looks like many people not going to work. Many homes, businesses keeping their shutters up. So we've been talking about how there is a threat of flooding, especially with king tide. So we are at a marina that is just east of the Ocean Road over the bridge. And so take a look. So that's a restaurant here called Two Georges, very popular restaurant in this area. Things look fine now, but I want to show you a picture from yesterday that a gentleman just gave me a short time ago. Take a look at this picture. You can see that that dock area was completely underwater. That was about 18 hours ago here. He said it was a result of the king tide. Remember that the water is a lot higher during that time. That combined with the extra rainfall brought the water up over that dock area. So again, that was about 18 hours ago. This restaurant known as Two Georges, it's right on the Intracoastal, just east of the Ocean Road. So let's go back here live again, and you can see now that the water there at that dock has subsided. But the big question for a lot of people, businesses especially, is whether to reopen today. As we mentioned, a lot of things remain shut. The schools are closed. People are hunkered down still in the shelters. 11 shelters were open. So I was talking to the manager here of this Banana Boat restaurant, which is across from the Two Georges restaurant, just across a canal. And he's struggling with that right now, trying to decide, is it worth it to open today? Will people be out? The weather continues to be squally like you see it. Lots of wind and rain, very cloudy, overcast. The repeated rain, as we said, some buildup of water in places. And, with the king tides later today, maybe we'll see more localized flooding. So that's the big question, to open or not to open. So that's one restaurant manager trying to decide. Now, earlier this morning, the bridge was open. We saw traffic going back and forth. Again, that bridge, if my photographer can turn around, that bridge leads to the Ocean Road, A1A here in Boynton Beach. And right now you see there's a police car. They are checking people, their identification. Only people who have valid identification are being allowed to go over the bridge to their residence there along the ocean to check them out. Last evening, they did have patrols going through to make sure everything was safe, because there was a mandatory evacuation for the Ocean Road. And again, many people did take advantage of that. Some people did remain along there on the barrier island. Hundreds of people, though, did go to the 11 shelters open. There were 9 regular shelters, 1 special needs shelter, and 1 pet shelter. And those shelters remain open this morning. So, again, emergency officials telling everybody, keep watching and waiting. We're still feeling the outer bands of this storm, and will probably continue for the next few hours. Reporting live in Boynton Beach, Joan Murray, CBS 4 This Morning.
Joan, thank you. South Florida school districts, of course, monitoring the latest on Hurricane Dorian as it sits off our coast.
Miami-Dade, Broward, and Monroe County public schools are closed today. Miami-Dade says it will reopen tomorrow, but of course that could change depending on Dorian's path. Palm Beach County schools closed today and tomorrow.
Dorian, we're just talking about the fact that we've been dealing with Dorian for almost 2 weeks now from when it was a tropical storm, and all the changes it's made. It's been tough to forecast and to keep an eye on this thing.
It has. You were just mentioning how it was threatening Dominican Republic and then Puerto Rico, and there have been a lot of changes.
Now we have to talk about the Carolinas and Georgia and maybe even the parts of Florida as it moves up the coast. But at least it's moving. Yeah.
Finally,
1 mile an hour.
1 mile an hour.
We'll take that.
It's been just stationary for a while, but all these dots that we have here to show us the indicator, the spots it's been. And
8:26 right now, and our special CBS 14 coverage continues next as we track Hurricane Dorian.
We have a live picture now from Freeport in the Bahamas. Take a look at those palm trees, really showing you the power of the winds there. Hopefully, some relief could be in sight later today, as some movement has been detected per the latest advisory. And we have the most recent update when we come back. Stay with us.
This is CBS 4 News This Morning.
Well, check out that video out of the Bahamas. It's revealing even more of the major damage that's being caused by Hurricane Dorian. Homes and streets are flooded. Cars are left in pieces, basically, littering the street.
And we have some live pictures right now from Daytona Beach, courtesy of EarthCam, where conditions really have deteriorated since the last time we checked in with the reporter who is there this morning. You could see starting to rain, the surf starting to whip up just a bit, just a few miles inland from there. That's where FPL is stationed, ready to help at the Daytona International Speedway to disperse throughout the state should people begin to lose power as Hurricane Dorian starts its movement to the northwest, potentially impacting more of Florida.
Here's a different image for you now. A look at Dorian from real-time Doppler. The storm spinning and battering the Bahamas like it has been, but we do have a little glimmer of good news this morning. I'll say it's good news.
A little bit, yes. 1 mile an hour is good.
But it's something.
At least it's moving. And if you notice, even when you look at the radar and satellite, it's still battering Grand Bahama. So we just want that motion to continue so that it continues to gradually move away. And that's expected, and it's forecast by the models. So we are hoping that it happens sooner rather than later, right?
So help can get to these people.
Right. And by the way, there's so many different organizations that are already accepting donations. They need volunteers, they need supplies. And on our website, cbsmiami.com, you can actually head over there to find out how you can help the people of the Bahamas, and they desperately need our help right now.
Yes, all the help they can get. So
yeah. So as we look at the latest satellite image, as we mentioned,
our team coverage continues this morning up the Florida coast, where they are watching Hurricane Dorian very closely as well.
CBS 4's Ted Scouten joins us live from Hutchinson Island, where the conditions have continued to worsen there, Ted.
Yeah, Lauren and Carly, throughout the morning, the conditions have been going downhill. Still really, in the big scheme of things, nothing too serious at the moment, but the winds have picked up, the sustained winds have picked up. They're going at a pretty good clip, and then we've also had some squall lines coming through. Take a look at this video we shot maybe about an hour ago or so. That's when we had one of those real heavy ones just come through. You know, that's what officials warn about, is you get those squalls that come through, and if you're not expecting it, you can get caught in something pretty dangerous. The winds were pretty high at that point. We were on the beach. The sand was really blowing very hard. Fortunately, though, everything remained okay. There was rain coming with that as well. But, you know, with these squalls, what happens is they all of a sudden come on, and then just as quickly they go away. So this one didn't last all that long. Kind of came and went pretty quickly, so that was a good thing. But we can expect more of those throughout the day. If you come back to us live, you can take a look at the ocean right now. You can see the waves are really pretty choppy. I just actually saw some debris in there. It looks like a crate in there in the ocean. But the ocean is a lot more choppy than it's been over the past few days. We've been up here for 3 days now, and this is the worst that we've seen it, and it is likely expecting to get worse. Something else that people here are concerned about is storm surge. There is a storm surge warning in effect, as well as a hurricane warning in effect here. That storm surge warning, they're expecting storm surge could be anywhere from 4 to 7 feet, so that's why the warning is out. The island here, Hutchinson Island, has been evacuated. I've spoken to 2 sheriff's deputies who have been patrolling the island when they stopped by here where we are, and they said everything is looking really good so far. They haven't seen any signs of flooding, at least on the island, nor have they seen any kind of damage, just some palm fronds down. As far as flooding, they said there's a little bit of flooding inland in low-lying areas that normally do flood, but nothing that they wouldn't expect or nothing that's out of the ordinary. So once again, these squall lines coming through. It feels like we're getting another one coming through now. A little bit of rain is starting. This is going to be happening throughout the day. Expected to get a bit more intense as we go throughout the day. Live in Hutchinson Island, Ted Scouten, CBS 4 this morning.
Ted, thank you. We like to hear that so far it is still looking good. And now we want to head even further up the coast.
CBS 4's Hillary Lane continues our team coverage there live in Daytona Beach. Hillary, what are you seeing now?
Lauren and Carly, the rain has started to fall and the winds have picked up a little bit, but this is nothing compared to what we're expecting to see later tonight as Hurricane Dorian inches closer and closer. We've also noticed that the waves are getting considerably rougher as the morning passes. Locals tell us they're already much higher than usual.
Hillary, you mentioned earlier this morning that you actually saw some people hanging out by the beach. They said they hadn't evacuated yet because they thought they still had plenty of time. Are you seeing perhaps now as the conditions start to worsen that traffic there on the beach start to dissipate and people perhaps heeding those warnings a little sooner?
Absolutely. There were quite a few people out here early in the morning to see the sunrise. It was actually a lovely morning, but now that the day is progressing, there's less sunshine, the wind has picked up, and there's more rain, and we've definitely seen people leave the beach. But even still, even as the waves are rough, there are still people out there wading in the water, and this is the kind of behavior officials warn against. They say it might seem safe, you might have this false sense of security, but it could end very poorly, and they want everyone in mandatory evacuation areas to leave.
And certainly another risk from the storm, a residual effect, could be some power outages. Hillary, you mentioned that all these power trucks are coming together at the Daytona Speedway. What can you tell us about the prep work being done?
Those trucks are at the Speedway. The workers that we're talking to say that they're hunkering down at local hotels, and all they can do is really wait. They say they are prepared. They have the manpower. They have all the equipment that they need. So as soon as the storm passes, the worst part of the storm, they'll still go out on the back end, but they just need to make sure that it's okay for them, and then they plan to be out. Their goal is to restore power as quickly as possible in this area and all throughout Florida.
I'm sure people will appreciate that very much. Hillary Lane live for us in Daytona Beach. Thank you.
Well, Hurricane Dorian is lingering in the ocean just about 100 miles east of Palm Beach County.
And CBS 4's Joan Murray continues our team coverage live from Boynton Beach this morning. Hi, Joan.
Hey, good morning. And this is central Palm Beach County. So all morning it's been squally, lots of wind and rain. We're getting a break from the rain for the moment. Now, about 18 hours ago, king tide came through here, and I'm going to show you a picture. So back there you see a restaurant. It's called Two Georges, and it's fine now, but about 18 hours ago, let's go to the picture. When king tide came through, it actually lifted that water and it was covering the dock. So that was the situation here about 18 hours ago. It just shows you, though, with the added rain and then the king tide, you never know what can happen, and that's basically why emergency officials always say, you know, you got to be on guard every moment, because you just don't know with weather how unpredictable it is. So back here live, and you can see that that tide went down, the water cleared, and the dock is fine right now. Over on our side, the Banana Boat restaurant manager there telling me that he's deciding whether or not he will open today. Things have been very empty. The roads are empty. People stay inside. We've seen a smattering of people. You see a guy over there. He's waving to us. Some people, we understand, a little stir crazy and have come out. When the mandatory evacuations went into place, hundreds of people did go to the shelters in Palm Beach County. 11 shelters altogether were opened. That was 9 regular shelters, 1 pet shelter, and 1 shelter for special needs. Now, we're just east of the Ocean Road, and the police have been out here for the last couple of hours. We've seen some cars come up. They check identification. If you can prove you live there on the barrier island, they are letting you go through. But right now, as you can see with the flashing lights and the police officer, that bridge that leads to the ocean is not open at this point. You know, after we're done with this live shot, we're going to go over to the Ocean Road and check it out, see if there were any effects of the storm, either any localized flooding. But at this point, again, quiet morning. The schools are closed. A lot of businesses are closed. Shutters are up. Boards are up. People continue to just monitor the storm, and we'll continue to bring you the latest here from Boynton Beach. Joan Murray, CBS 4 this morning.
Thank you, Joan. 8:44 now, and straight ahead, we have more of our team coverage of tracking Hurricane Dorian.
But first, we have some live pictures from Freeport in the Bahamas, still absolutely being battered by heavy wind and rain as Hurricane Dorian begins its slow move out of the area.
Lisette, thank you. Happening today as the Bahamas wait for Hurricane Dorian to move completely out, South Florida is ready to help.
Miami-Dade officials will be announcing a collection drive for relief supplies today, and other organizations are already gathering donations. CBS 4's Riel Creighton reports from Coconut Grove, where one relief drive is well underway.
Good morning. Yes, Christ Episcopal Church here in Coconut Grove, here at Hibiscus and William, just one of the places being proactive, collecting supplies, not only to help our neighbors to the north in Florida, but also for the people of the Bahamas. where the situation right now is just devastating. Video shows treacherous tides swallowing trees, flooding homes, restaurants on the water barely noticeable.
The bar wall has completely collapsed. The bar is hanging over nothing.
At least 5 people have died. Many more needed rescuing. Rear Admiral Eric Jones with the U.S. Coast Guard in Miami says pilots spent most of Monday surveying the area to see how close they could get to Abaco.
Helicopter pilots were really battling some extreme conditions.
With their choppers fighting 85-mile-an-hour winds, they worked their way up the coastline. Marsh Harbor was as far as they could get. They found a number of people in critical condition.
We were able to give them a doctor for the day with a couple medics, and then we worked on airlifting the most critical patients so we could get them to appropriate care in Nassau.
A few doctors, medics, and pilots from the Miami Beach station have been deployed. Surrounding districts are being inundated with calls. People from the island asking for help and trying to find missing family members.
Please, pray for us. I'm begging you, pray for us.
One of the challenges we're seeing is that a lot of the descriptions and the locations, because you're talking about these small islands and remote locations, are described as, the third house past the stoplight.
With the Coast Guard and surrounding agencies working on rescue efforts, the Bahamian consul in Miami has teamed up with local churches and fire stations to provide relief.
Now we have a responsibility. All the preparations we put together, all the supplies we gathered, we need to help our neighbors, and right now that's the Bahamas.
Dozens of locals spent their day gathering supplies, collecting canned food, water, clothing, baby items, and more. State Representative Chevron Jones.
They don't have a lot of the resources like we have here in the States. So, it's really going to be up to us from here in the States to help out.
We expect to get more information from county officials about a county-wide relief effort coming up at 9 o'clock this morning. We will be there. In Coconut Grove, Riel Creighton, CBS 4 This Morning.
And Neighbors for Neighbors and our Entercom radio partners, including Power 96, 560 The Joe, WQAM, and Kiss Country 99.9 are coming together to help in the relief effort. To find out how you can help, go to neighborsforneighbors.org. And soon, once the storm has officially moved out of the Bahamas, that really needs to be what the shift is to taking care of all these people. But for right now, they're still dealing with some really nasty weather.
It looks like that shift is already happening here, at least, and ready to move there. So, yeah, we're watching that closely. But I want to show you one more thing here. Over the next few days, you might hear some chatter about some new tropical systems. None of those will impact us here, but we're continuing to watch. There's a few areas there. 30% development in the Western Gulf could develop into the next tropical system. No impacts here in South Florida, but you'll hear the chatter.
I'm glad you brought that up, because my grandfather texted me this morning asking, what's that thing all the way out there off the coast of Africa? So some good news that we don't have to worry about that while we're dealing with relief for Hurricane Dorian.
Yeah,
that's our next focus. Absolutely. All right. Thank you so much. Watching. We'll be back at noon. And updates at 11 a.m. advisory. Be sure to tune in on CBSMiami.com, on our social media pages, and right here on CBS 4.